Hey friends, welcome to day 4 of our beginner month-long yoga series. As always, please do the YouTube things like, comment, subscribe, share, and then I have my Venmo link listed below. If you would feel up for donating, that would be amazing if you feel like you're gaining something from this. I put a lot of work into it, but I also just want you to get it regardless, so your choice there. Today's class is going to be a mobility and flexibility class. We'll be going through some postures and some movements, some fascia movements, with the emphasis on, like I said, kind of core, front body, back body, middle body. Next week will be upper body, following week will be lower body, and then the last week will be full body. Again, everything is related, but just a little way to organize it. All right, let's get started in a tabletop pose. Oh, before I begin, with mobility and flexibility, I'm a PT, a physical therapist, and I bring a little bit more of an active approach into it. I think it's really important to have your muscles to be able to control the ranges of motion you go into instead of just yanking a limb into the end range of motion with no control, holding it for a long time, or getting aggressive with momentum into it. So I think it's really important to have your body be able to control the ranges of motion. So the flexibility classes might be a little more active than what you might expect. The other part of it is we have this connective tissue webbing system called fascia that encloses your muscles and your joints and your organs literally throughout your whole body. And it loves to be stretched with type of like a pulsing type of movement, like a bouncing. So we'll incorporate that a little bit. If it doesn't feel good for you, don't do it. Just ignore it. I like it because I think it really lets me feel kind of just like rejuvenated. Like every part of my fascia was said hello to and stretched out, and it feels good in the body. But listen to your body, as always. Let's get started in a tabletop pose, which, as we know, we're going to stack our shoulders over our wrists and our hips over our knees. And similar to cat-cow that we did a couple days ago, we are going to do something called spinal cars. Cars are controlled articular rotations. So this is going to be a whole lot slower and a whole lot more segmental. So when we move from our arched position to our rounded position, we're going to try to move each spinal segment on its own. At least send that intention in. It's a really hard thing to do, but we're going to try it out. So let's start in a cow pose. So drop your belly, lift your tail, lift your gaze, pull your heart through your shoulders. Maybe lift your chin from your chest. Now from here, we're going to spend several breaths. So don't try to do breath per movement. First, let's tuck chin into chest. Now find the spinal segments in your neck, your cervical spine, and start to tuck and nod your upper neck, your middle neck, and your lower neck. Find the place in between your shoulder blades. And we're going to pretend we had like a magnet over top of our spine and it's moving its way down. So each part that I'm talking about, think about magnetizing it up towards the sky. So the segments in between your shoulder blades, all the way through the middle of the back. Now moving below your shoulder blades, towards the ribs, the lower ribs. Finally making our way to the low back, your lumbar spine. Think about rounding that segment up towards the sky, and then eventually your pelvis, your tailbone will tuck underneath you. That takes a lot of effort, so do not get frustrated. It takes a lot of practice. I have neglected them lately, so that was really hard for me. So we're in this rounded position. We are going to reverse it now. So starting at the tailbone and the pelvis, flick your sit bones up towards the sky, finding an anterior tilt of the pelvis. Now pretend something above you is trying to tickle you like a feather, and you're going to try to arch every segment away from it, kind of dipping down towards the mat. So pelvis is untucked, and then your low back segments start to dip down towards the mat. Engaging the muscles around the spine, moving towards the middle of the back. Let your belly button fall towards the mat. Sliding up towards the place between your shoulder blades. The lower, very upper part of the back, and then the lower part of the neck. Eventually, we're going to actually untuck our chin from our chest. So we're in this arched position. Now we're going to start from the pelvis, and we're going to round and tuck under with our tailbone, round through the low spine, the middle of the spine, eventually making its way to the upper spine and the neck. Some of these are way harder than others. Good, and then reverse that once you get there, but no rush. So chin is tucked in towards chest. Now we're gonna extend through the cervical spine, your neck. This one's the hardest one, I think. Drop that place in between your shoulder blades. Still rounding, keep that engagement of the core through the pelvis. Drop the place in your middle back. Eventually your low back. And then your pelvis, so your sit bones reach up towards the sky. Ooh, good job. So play with those. I definitely need to experiment with them more. Those are your spinal cars. Try to do each direction, rounding and arching. All right, next let's find a seat. So you can feel how your core and the muscles around your spine had to engage a ton, and you had to find some major body awareness to move through those tiny little ranges of motion. All right, let's come to a seat, cross one leg in front of the other. Sit onto a pillow or a bolster if that's more comfortable for you, or a towel underneath your sit bones. And let's find a nice little twist here. So we're gonna reach our right hand behind us, bring your left hand to the outside of your right knee. This is a seated spinal twist. We're thinking about pushing our left hand into our knee and peeling our right shoulder open. Finding some broadening and lengthening across your collarbones. Your gaze can follow your right shoulder if you want to move through the neck as well. Couple breaths here. We say to inhale, we find length through the spine, drawing up through the crown of the head. And then exhale helps us twist deeper. So hold here, let it feel good. If you want to add a challenge, engage your core here and the muscles on the left side of the spine and your obliques. Lift your hands up, see if you can hold that twist using your muscles. Good, and then if you feel like you controlled that, push into your hands a little bit more to traction. Open up deeper. Take a big breath in. Exhale, contract. Lift your hands, see if you can hold. Good. Come back through center and we'll switch it out. You can cross your feet in the opposite direction if you want. Sit up tall out of your waist, and then we'll twist to the left. Left hand comes back behind you. It's a support system like a second spine. Right hand comes to left outer leg, left knee, and then we peel our left shoulder back. Gaze can follow your left shoulder as well. Inhales to find some length, like you're inflating your body up your spine. And exhale, we twist a little deeper. Let it just feel good here for a few breaths. And then if you want the challenge, engage your muscles, let go of your hands. Keep the twist. Good, use your hands again, twist a little deeper. Take a big breath in. Big breath out, contract your muscles. Lift your hands and hold. Good. Move back through center. Take a little shimmy side to side. And we're gonna find a side bend now. This time, bring your right hand to the outside of your right hip. You can place it on a block if you'd like. We're gonna stretch our left arm high. And exhale, left arm reaches up and over to the right. So we're staying grounded through the left sit bone like we had a sandbag weighing our left thigh down. Now here it's easy to collapse down. Think about drawing your elbow back into the space behind you and your gaze looks up and under your left armpit. If you feel like you can keep that opening, feel free to lower down onto your elbow. Maybe if you're somewhere in between like me, your elbow comes down onto that prop. This is one where I like to bring the fascia into play. So if you'd like to take the option, you can find some pulses. Each pulse takes about 1 second. So as we stretch into our end range, think about driving your left sit bone down into the mat and reaching in the complete opposite direction with your left fingertips. Really stretching along the left side body. We'll take about 20 pulses here. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Come back through center. Switch the cross of your legs if you want. We're gonna side bend the other way. So start by sitting up tall. Imagine that sandbag on your right thigh this time. Left arm walks out to the side. Right arm reaches high on an in-breath. Exhale, side bend over to the left. Again, watching for any collapsing down. Think about drawing your right shoulder blade onto your back body and gazing up, opening up. When you breathe in, think about inflating your right lung with air. Good. Option to take about 20 of those pulses, or you can lower down deeper into the stretch onto your elbow or onto a prop. Halfway through, 10 more. And 3, 2, 1. Good, come back through center. All right, feel that little difference in your spine. Hopefully even those two movements felt really good and stretchy, but also like you were staying active in them. Let's find a forward fold Uttanasana at the front of the mat. So find that grounding down through all the corners of your feet. Remember to bend your knees as generously as you need to find some comfort in the low back. To take out any extreme stretching of the hamstrings. Good. Now, option to add some more fascia pulses. I really like it in this pose because it brings the back of the neck into the stretch of the whole back line of the body. So I have a previous neck injury, so when I do this stretch, I mostly feel the tension up here. Other people might feel it elsewhere in their back body or even down the backs of the legs. We're gonna interlace our fingers back behind our head. Our elbows, instead of pulling out wide, we're gonna crunch them in towards center and round our chin to our chest. So all this is happening while we're in our forward fold and doing those bounces. So you're thinking about drawing your elbows in, and they're gonna almost curl up in towards your body, in towards your belly button. As you're able, you can straighten your knees a little bit more. Let's take about 20 pulses here. So elbows are coming up towards your hip creases. Let's do 5 more. Good. Release. Forward fold. Good. All right, come to stand. Tadasana mountain pose. You can face the top of the mat, or I'm gonna come face you just so you can see a little better. We're gonna do some funky side bending movements. This space here, your side waist and right along the back body, there's this muscle called your QL, your quadratus lumborum, and it is hard to stretch, but it feels so good to stretch. And I learned this fascia move from a teacher named Dylan Werner. He calls it bus drivers. So you're gonna pretend you had a giant steering wheel of a giant bus in front of you, holding on with your arms. Find a little bend in your knees and a sway side to side, and then we're gonna create this motion. So we're driving the bus. As your right hand drops down towards your right leg, you're gonna bend into your left knee and bring your left hand up towards the sky. So this will stretch the left side, and then we switch it. So left hand drops down towards left leg as it straightens, right knee bends, right arm comes up to the sky. Okay, so we're bouncing back and forth, side to side, arms switching, and then the bend of the knees is switching. It looks funky, but let it feel good. You should feel a nice stretching, keep going, along the back sides of your ribs to the whole kidney band area. Maybe you feel like you're doing a weird dance. Let's do about 5 more. Good. Come back to center. Feel into your spine here. We are going to take one more option, which is going to open the front line of the body. This is more of an intermediate move, so if this doesn't serve your body, please don't take it. Let's come down again. You can place your hands on blocks. We're going to find some upward dog pulses. So again, if you have any back pain, I would skip this until you feel like you have a lot of good control of your glutes and your core. But the goal, and you can always drop your knees if you want to, is we're gonna pretend we're sliding our hips through our wrists. It's gonna look really weird, it's okay. So come to the tops of your feet, hover your hips off so we find an upward dog. Now, lift up and out a little bit, so engage your core to lift your hips, and then we're gonna thread them through our thumbs, or pretend they could. You might feel this along the front of the hip flexors. Let's do about 10 more. Definitely a good ab workout too. Good, relax. I know it looked funky. Play around with that one a little more if you want. You should feel it in the front of the hip flexors and the front of the core, maybe up through the chest as well. All right, so that's our active mobility and flexibility class. Again, not really your traditional, I'm gonna hold this for a long time. At the end of the week, we will have a restorative class, which we will use props to build the ground up to us, to let us relax into some of these poses. But I think it's important to do both, so I wanted to include some funky little active mobility drills, and I hope you liked it. I will see you next time. Thanks for being here.